Welcome to 160 Studios. I'm Holly Scott. I have the distinct pleasure of chatting with Santosh Iyer, the CEO and founder of Moonshot. Moonshot is an incredible program, and they have the mantra of training a new breed of healthcare problem solvers. Santosh, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Holly. It's great to see you again. Very excited to chat.
Likewise, likewise. So let's start with Moonshot. Tell us what Moonshot's all about.
Yeah, so Moonshot started as a personal experience when I was in high school, grade 10. There was a neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins doing brain surgery, and he wanted a better way to control his tremor. And so he used a prototype surgical robot at that time to do precise brain surgery. And at the time, I was really interested in engineering. Didn't really understand anything about healthcare, wasn't even interested in healthcare because I thought healthcare was just being a doctor. But that really opened my eyes to how medical technology could help people and save lives. So the ability to take really complicated technologies and save people profoundly changed my perception of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in life. And so fast forward, now, I've been in the med tech industry for a while, have a good commercial and engineering background. And I thought, hey, how can I recreate that experience for kids? But then more broadly, how do we create this broader talent pipeline for the medtech industry? Because right now what I see is that oftentimes we sit in silos and innovation has been pretty incremental, but we really need a radical shift in the way we care for patients. So how do we create that talent pipeline to fuel the next generation of healthcare and medtech innovation? And so Moonshot was about taking my personal experience and solving that need. And so we are really about creating those 10x thinkers that can come up with radical solutions to complex problems in a very realistic and practical way. What that means is it's not just about the science, it's also about thinking about the commercial and regulatory feasibility. And so that's a very cross-functional endeavor, just like it is in the real world. And so we take students from a variety of backgrounds and, not just from the engineering and robotic sides, but also people interested in business, art, the humanities. And I think that's really important because that's where society is moving. And so, that's really what Moonshot is about. It's about creating those 10x thinkers that are going to make an impact in the world and are actually going to pull from other industries, biotech, AI, tech. Because as we move towards the age of automation, we are going to, as humans, need to think more creatively. And so how do you take the tools you have at the moment, today it's something like generative AI, and then help people in a profound way?
Yeah, it's an incredible area, and to unpack so many aspects of what you've shared, starting with the top, in high school, and when you think healthcare, if you're young and you're thinking about healthcare, quite often it is, if I don't want to be a doctor, I really don't know what those opportunities look like, right? And the way our market and industry has evolved in the last 20 years, much less the last 5 years, traditional routes, traditional education no longer serves at the speed that we need to meet the innovative needs in healthcare. So this is coming not only at an incredible opportunity in terms of providing for the students themselves insight into what is possible, but it's also, it's demanded by our future. We need this kind of thinking and this kind of cross-pollination of sorts when it comes to diversity of where education is headed. So the more I've learned about the program, the more bullish I have become on what the potential is and the impact it's made.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's better than what I could say. So appreciate it.
No, it's what we've been through and what we've experienced, because this was, we completed summer here, and this was our third year. Is that correct?
Second year. Yep.
Second year. So a little more fundamentals that I thought were interesting. So second year for Moonshot, it folded into partnership with Harvard Medical School's Harvard Medical Science program. And the Harvard Medical Science Summer Program was initiated by Dr. Nancy Oriel and Dr. James Gordon in 2005. So almost 20 years, they put this immersive education program in place. And Dr. Oriel's words, first of all, she's what an incredible lady. I had a pleasure of meeting her at the Moonshot wrap-up program, and she shared that the vision of the program was to offer younger students this immersive opportunity and simulate what it was like in a clinical environment. What she found really interesting about Moonshot, and again, kind of speaking to what this offers, is through the med science program, these students, which have now, graduates, thousands in these programs, these students are taught really on a daily basis. Let's focus on an organ, let's focus on its application, and then let's move on to the next. So the opportunity for cross-collaboration, teamwork, thinking broadly, and thinking as a business are not as fertile in that program intentionally, because so many of them are geared towards outcomes of future physicians and future clinicians. And she shared with me that one of the neatest observations that she has made is the fact that you task them day one with a project, and I'll let you dive into that, and then week one, at the end of week one, or even into the visionary program, which is at the end of week two, they have worked as a cohesive team representing different aspects of how to tackle the problem in such a unique way that it creates, you actually see it, the bond and the cohesion and the diversity of thought come together and solve in such a unique way. So tell us a bit about that, because I think that is just so unique at this level, especially at their age, at their competency level, coming together. And what do you ask them to do day one, and maybe walk us through that?
Yeah, so we really try to mimic what happens in the real world. So when you have to think about solving a problem in the real world, what do? You first have to understand the problem. So this is where med science comes in, because we really focus on a deep understanding of the clinical problem and the patient's story. Because no matter what you do in healthcare, it's always about the patient. And so we really try to build empathy with the patient and their condition. And so the first few days in week one are really about clinical immersion. And this is where med science is exceptional. They have a patient simulator where the person presents with symptoms, and the students have to come up with the diagnosis and treatment plan with the existing standard for that disease. And what they notice very quickly is, that doesn't seem adequate because there's clearly a gap here, right? So they learn about a lot of the problems in the process of diagnosing and treating. And so today, what you see with a lot of physicians and nurses and others is they say, that's just the way things are, and I'm just going to go home. But what they do is they pick up from there. They say, hold on, why can't we change that? Why can't we make it better? And so that's where Moonshot comes in and picks up and says, look, we have a platform for you to experiment with to make this better. But making it better is not just about the clinical side. There are a lot of other things that go into it. When you think about medical innovation, it's not just about the clinical, and it's also not about the science. It's about the engineering and creating a product. It's about understanding the business plan and the regulatory side, because this is how our society works. Is you can't just push things into the market. You have to think about how you're going to commercialize and how you're going to make that safe and effective for patients. And so we try to simulate what that actually looks like, regardless of the background they have, whether they may be interested in surgery or robotics or AI. They get that common foundation. And to your point about cohesion, that's where it comes, because they're focused on solving the problem for the patient, and they get to play that through their roles. So they specialize in roles, but then they kind of zoom back out and say, okay, how do we now help the patient, right? And I will add one more thing, which is, we actually have students from different cultures. We have students from around the world, from Thailand, Australia, India. And this is great because there are cultural nuances that come into this as well, especially as we think about the patient story, and especially as healthcare now, for many companies and doctors alike, we think about it from a global perspective. Gotcha. So yeah, that's a little bit about Moonshot and the process. And the only final thing I'll add is we also try to connect them to the real world beyond the clinical side with industry. So this is where medtech and biotech come in, where we put those students in front of the latest technologies and the industry thought leaders to expose them to what good looks like today. And then they actually take that and make it better. So whatever you think is good today, we try to go 10x better than that, because we truly believe for radical change, as it ties to healthcare, you need to think 10x better than whatever is being done today. So.
And that message must have gotten the attention of many sitting on the industry side because, well, it certainly got our attention. We've known you, Santosh, for what, 10 years now? It's been quite a while. And watching this evolve has been an incredible part of our journey. It's also interesting to see the support you're getting from industry professionals. So tell us about that, because I know from this particular summer program you had some pretty big industry involvement, Medtronic and J&J, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So, a couple of people I want to specifically call out there. Rajiv Kamal, Bill Pine from the Medtronic side, and Matt Powersons and Isabella Rinaldi from the J&J side. These people are really passionate about not only, of course, giving back, which is very altruistic, but I think more broadly believing in the fact that innovation from a young age is important, and this belief that we need a diverse and robust talent pipeline. And so that core belief is why they have gone above and beyond to really support this program and make it exceptional for students. And you can see that in the caliber of people that they brought in, just the thought in terms of the site tours, getting their robots and other technologies set up, just phenomenal. And this is just in the Boston ecosystem. So I can imagine something like this happening potentially globally in the future, being able to take advantage of a lot of the regional technologies, regional people, as well as this program scales.
I have the fortunate position of being both a industry professional that knows you, and I also am a parent of a young man who went through the program. So I have observations from both. The actual journey from day one to the second Friday of the second week to the actual pitch competition was something that, as a parent, I've never seen. I mean, my son is a different person based on this experience, and I say that in a very positive way, so many levels. First of all, I've never seen a summer program where the kids actually showed up early because they couldn't wait to be there. Okay, so this is what's happening. Yes, you have to be. Yes, it's a selective program. Yes, you have to apply, and yes, you are working with individuals, the other students, who are there because not only do they want to be there, they've dreamed of being in this kind of environment. This is exciting to them. This is where they want to spend their time. Some were from California, from Texas, from Thailand, they were representative of various backgrounds and various interests. Some were clinical of interest, some were roboticists, computer scientists. Many weren't sure, and that's okay. This was the experience that's going to augment whatever they do outside of that traditional, get your degree, go here, go to college, go next. So that in itself was phenomenal. They also stayed much later than the 3:30 pickup time. Again, if you have high school students, it's not only usually taxing to get them out of bed, but to get them to come home even late and say, hey, we're working late. This was truly a simulation of things that I've seen in the workplace. People who are dedicated and committed, and the connections and the way they really came into their own. You had softly assigned them roles on these teams early on. You're the data scientist, you're the product manager, you're the clinician. Each of the members of the teams had an assigned role. And by the 10th day of the program, they owned it. It was amazing to see how they really became what was asked of them and really drove towards that. And with that, I'm a big believer that all of the experiences and all the education are excellent and they're part of your toolbox. But the number one driver for where you go career-wise is the people. And they have made connections that are likely going to last a lifetime. I know friendships that my son developed are strong. They're talking regularly about what they want to do. They think very broadly and big about the industry. They share a passion, so that's something that was really incredible. And from an industry professional, the pitch competition, not only was it incredibly insightful to see and give me so much hope about the next generation, but it was truly the who's who. I mean, you had Todd Husson, obviously accomplished CEO in the space, very well known in robotics, holds board role with Rob Surgical currently and has done many interesting things. You had Dr. Debbie Keller, robotics and MIS colorectal surgeon. She's an innovation fellow at Stanford. I mean, Rajit, as you mentioned, from Medtronic. Matt Parsons, he was great to chat with about the interventional oncology side and how it was really interesting. We were both lit up like Christmas trees watching these pitches and seeing how it came together. And of course, Tom Salimi, our friend and well-known journalist, industry journalist from Device Talks, they all participated. There were others that, you can't even mention everyone, but it was just a packed session, and walking around at the end with the pitch competition. Each of the teams were split up in 5, and the industry professionals had money. They had stacks of money. I didn't have any money because I'm also a mom, but I was able to shadow the investors, industry investors. They walked in and they were asking them tough questions, and they were challenging them, and they were scrutinizing the commercialization numbers. They were asking about why they chose a particular technology path. They were asking about the regulatory clinical strategy and how's this going to get reimbursed. And these are things that I hear every day working with innovative companies. So having these teams and these young adults challenged in this way and be able to think broadly and be able to respond and have that experience, man, is that a powerful foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will say one of the things that has made this possible, by the way, you talked about all those things. How do we talk about scaling expertise, right? If you think about 20 years ago, you probably need a regulatory expert, a commercial expert, a clinical expert to come in and talk to them. Well, we have something called ChatGPT now. And what's powerful about that is, they're able to look at previous 510K submissions. They're able to look at publications. They're able to look at 10Ks and financial forecasts and learn from what has already been done. And the ability to synthesize that data and customize it to that problem has never been more accessible. And so that's why you see this level of sophistication for using technology to impact at scale. So
It's so fundamentally part of our society now, and to be able to see it and use it in an appropriate way in healthcare and academia it's impactful. It's impactful. There's too much anxiety and fear over what that can allow. If we can embrace it and use it properly and use our superhero powers for good and not evil, this is where we can get those 10x thinkers to do things in 10x the time, right, or faster speed than what legacy challenges have taken.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's incredible. What's next for Moonshot? So year 2 now, and quite a success. What's your vision as we think about this program?
So Harvard MedScience has been pretty critical to getting this program off the ground. So one of the first priorities is to really grow the Moonshot program within Harvard. So that's not only growing the summer program, but also growing during the school year. As you mentioned before, MedScience impacts thousands of students, and that's actually part of their social mission. A lot of these kids can't access the summer program or want this embedded in their schools. And so we are trying to engage the school ecosystem as well as the Boston MedTech ecosystem to support the school initiatives to drive continuous engagement, because we truly believe that impacting like this is truly where you're going to have enough people to come in to actually produce the Einsteins or whoever else of the future. So that's one. And then the second is, as I think about more broadly, I have had people from all over the world approach me to say, hey, you really want to bring this to so-and-so place. And so, I'm also strategically thinking about partners nationally and internationally to scale this program. Take what we've learned at Harvard and then really grow this exponentially in the next few years. So that's really what I'm thinking about for Moonshot, is how can we refine, perfect, and scale this, because I think medtech healthcare is a very interesting space, but I think truly to achieve the mission of what Moonshot wants to do, we need to scale this.
Yeah, and I can see how it would be not only possible but incredibly beneficial from a macro perspective for, again, these next generation and where we're headed futuristically. So One of the interesting things that I walked away with, Santosh, was the commitment from Harvard and Harvard Medical Science, from conversations with them and then coming back to conversations I've had with you, to allow accessibility of this program to high school kids anywhere who may be interested and eligible. I thought that was interesting because there is a perception with Harvard that, elite, prestige, big dollars. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for us, I think about accessibility in two ways. The first way, obviously, is financial, right? There's a lot of kids who want to do these kinds of programs that just can't get access. And so that's where we really have to partner with philanthropy and industry to support them. And a lot of times we don't just look at the financial need, but we also look at aptitude and merit. And that doesn't have to be grades. That can be things that they're really passionate about, projects that they've worked on. It's really about showing resilience and aptitude. That's number one. The second mode of accessibility is really those who've had a personal condition. So personal medical condition, whether it's a chronic illness or something they had as a child. To me, this is really profound because those kids, those high school kids, are going to see healthcare in a very different way because it has personally impacted them in a way that maybe not it hasn't impacted others. And so for us, we really value those perspectives because they can advocate for the patient while they're here. And I will take that a step further, which is, we were playing around with this idea of a Moonshot Scholar program, and it's specifically geared towards those kids with these conditions. And the reason that that's important is because we want them to take the Moonshot thinking that they've acquired from the summer and apply it to themselves. So if you were to solve your own problem, how would you do it using Moonshot thinking? And so one of the things I'm exploring is, hey, can we give them the system, partner with industry even to use complex and sophisticated medical instrumentation and come up with new ways to treat their own problem. And as patients, they really understand that at a visceral level in a way that a physician can't even, right? So that is extremely exciting to me. And to me, that's a different way to drive impact, right? Beyond the talent pipeline and all the other things we mentioned is how do we drive it from a patient and innovator perspective to these kids. So that's just something I'm super proud of. And, we're starting that on a small scale now.
How can the industry support you in this effort? How can we reach out? What would you like from industry in terms of a next step?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we already have a lot of interest for people to come in as, these investors during demo days. So, that's obviously one, right? Be involved in the programs in some sort of, industry judge or mentor capacity. But beyond that, there's really four other things I could think of. The first is, as we think about that pathway to healthcare, it's really about internships. We notice that a lot of kids are like, hey, like I've done this cool thing, but like, how do I take this and apply it? So are there any internship and shadowing opportunities for students in industry or research labs? That's number one. Number two is there's a huge physician network beyond industry. We know that there are a lot of physician innovators like Dr. Keller who are interested in contributing. This is really important because we want clinical mentors that can provide thought leadership and serve as voice of customer. This is pretty critical when you're thinking about a breakthrough solution because honestly, no one cares if it doesn't help the patient. And the clinician is going to be the biggest advocate in this case, beyond the patient. So we need those clinical experts. Number three is connecting with the foundation arms of your organizations to provide merit and needs-based scholarships. And so this is not only for the summer program, but also for the school year. It is expensive to run these things. And so for us to truly hit the scale that we need to improve access to those kids who are truly exceptional but can't afford to come. And then number four is really similar to what Medtronic and J&J did, provide demos and site tours of your technologies. Show that off because this is what kids get excited about, showing that in a real life setting. As well as if you have any instrumentation, specifically in the vascular and endoscopic space, we can use that to actually build new clinical problems and solutions. And so using real life instrumentation is super important for this program to be a success. And so being able to do that, being able to have industry provide that is really going to improve the quality and level of immersion that these students see. I can't tell you the number of times, they played with biopsy graspers and nets and snares and ablation probes, because that's what gets their juices spinning. And this is the real world, right? And that's what gets them fascinated and pulls them into the field. So,
Excellent. Well, please, audience, think about this. If you are like me in both industry as well as a parent, think about considering your high school age student for these programs, because they're exceptional. And like I said, it's a once in a lifetime experience. And from an industry perspective, we are all in this to raise healthcare. And how are we going to do that? We're going to impact the next generation that's focusing on healthcare. This is a gap that's not being addressed right now. This is where tech meets healthcare, and all of the ideas they need to be developed. They need to be to really be curated in order to make the impact that is deserved in the market. So excited about where Moonshot's headed. Always great seeing you, Santosh. I can't wait till we're together again for whatever event or wherever it might be. But until then, thanks for joining us today.
thank you so much, Holly. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you to the broader community for supporting this.
Got it. Thanks for visiting with us at 160 Studios. I'm Holly Scott. Be well.